Astrology is telling us that we now have to be authentically ourselves. We have to be in good relationship with ourselves and with others in our life, because if we aren't, we stop the growth, our spiritual growth. So our growth into humanity is so important now. This ability to know who you are, what relationships you're in. Do you know where your water is? In other words, do you know where your life is? Water is life. And do you know how to keep your own garden? Are you taking care of yourself with your own understanding of what we need to be alive on the planet? It's time to speak your truth. This is what I have been teaching for 23 years. Be authentically yourself.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. I think you're going to love today's show. Wow. If you are really struggling to make sense of what the heck is going on in the world and how to navigate these choppy waters that we find ourselves in, you are really, really going to love this show. Today, my guest is repeat guest, astrologer Marilyn Dumont. And we talk about what the heck is going on, what the stars have to say about the current situation in the world and all of humanity for that matter, and how we can step confidently into this new age of Aquarius and the golden age, which is completely different framework than the previous Piscean age was. And that was in the third dimension, which was very linear and very orderly and one step at a time and, following a calendar and all these different things. But the new age, the golden age, the age of Aquarius, is in the fifth dimension, which operates totally differently, which is why everything seems to be thrown up in the air and the world as you know it is now completely different. And newsflash, it's not going to go back to the way it was. And part of that is actually something that was prophesized by the Native American Hopi Nation tribe. And in today's episode with Marilyn, we refer to the Hopi prophecy, which the elders had shared with the world years ago to help warn, guide, and inspire humanity of what's to come and what is happening right now. And yes, the stars actually did predict the situation that we're in. And you can find the Hopi prophecy on my website, which is amyfournier.com, AMYF as in Fox, OURNIER.com. You can just put it in the search button there under my blog, The Hopi Prophecy. And I'm just going to read it for you real quickly before we get into the episode. And the prophecy states this: the Hopi elders speak. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You've been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It's time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for the leader. This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart, and they will suffer greatly. No, the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep your eyes open and your heads above the water. See who's in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And that is by the Hopi elders of the Arizona Hopi Nation. My guest today, Marilyn Dumont, has been an astrologer for over 23 years. And she's the one who shared this Hopi prophecy with me from her vast research and wisdom. So she breaks down this prophecy for us in her explanation of what the heck is going on as we enter into this completely new world. And she also shares with us another guiding principle that she calls the 12 steps to self-care. That also is on my website. Okay, so you can download that too, because it's relevant to our discussion today. We've found, or at least Marilyn has found and shared with us so wisely, that these 12 steps correlate very closely with the Hopi prophecy and how we navigate these waters, because these 12 steps help to ensure we retain our integrity, not only with ourselves, but with the outside world, and our authenticity. The two qualities that are absolutely critical into navigating these choppy waters. How do we maintain our integrity and our authenticity? They're the only ways to move forward into the fifth dimension and survive. So Marilyn shares those with us. And I think you're going to absolutely love this episode. I'd love to know what you think about it. I thank you for those of you who are sharing the show, posting on your social media, emailing me and messaging me that you appreciate the show. If you feel called to leave a review, I would be forever indebted. But I'm just really happy that you're here, because we need to get this information out there to help so many people that are so lost and struggling right now, because they're looking for an anchor, something to hold on to. So I'm so grateful to Marilyn Dumont for joining us again today, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Enjoy. Marilyn Dumont, astrologer to the world and my friend from a long time. Marilyn, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me again, Amy. This has just been an amazing time we're in, and to be with you, to be able to share this with people is just a wonderful thing.
Well, you know, our first recording back, episode 54, which we talked about basically the basics of astrology, astrology 101, the planetary shifts were happening at the time, and introducing the Aquarian age that we are now venturing forth into, was one of my most popular episodes. So many people are thrilled to have you back on the show, number one. And number two, in conjunction with all the stuff that's going on, all the big stuff that's going on for humanity and our world, people are really wanting you back on the show to help explain the times that we are in, maybe give them a little structure and give them a little sense of maybe the bigger picture of what can be happening to help people navigate. So welcome back and thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. This is my passion, and this is something that I have worked with for 23 years now. And it's just an amazing time that we are in. This is the time, as the Hopi say, we've been talking about. This is the time we are now in that time of change. And so it's really wonderful, after talking about this for 23 years, to see it burgeoning onto the planet finally. And enough people really understanding what it's going to take to bring our whole world, our whole universe into the age of Aquarius. So it's a profound time.
Indeed. All right. So let's try to get some foundational basis laid down so we can all know where we're starting from. So we're using words like the age of Aquarius and like this big time. So Marilyn, explain to us your version of where we're at right now. Like, what are we actually talking about?
Well, we're in an interesting time that is extremely epic. We have a crossing from the third dimension, which in the modern age has been about the last 10,000 years. We have lived, and up to 13,000 years, we have lived in a time where things are linear, where we are in a linear timeline and space. So we have a calendar and we have a clock and we have a map of where we are in time. And that has been the last 10,000 years to 13,000 years, where we became locked in this system that is very narrow, a linear line with boundaries that we could not move away from. So now, coming into the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012, and then the beginning of the age of Aquarius, which the ages are the progressions, processions of our axis of our Earth moving in an elliptical path that touches every zodiac sign we use in astrology. Every 2,000 years, that changes. So we have just spent 2,000 years from the birth of Buddha and Christ working in the age of Pisces. Our axis has actually been turning across the Piscean age. And we are now in that state studying what it meant to have knowledge, to have a conscious knowledge of something that was greater than ourselves. So in that 2,000 year period, we spent our lives on the planet learning what it meant to be ourselves, but also in relationship to a calling greater than ourselves, which we use the word God most of the time for, and or now more recently, the universe working with us. And we understand that there's something greater than ourselves. We're not just on this planet born and die. We are here for a purpose, to learn, to produce, to bring new ideas back to the I am consciousness, and then come back to the earth again. So along that 2,000 years, there was a lot to learn. We modernized the world during those 2,000 years. And then as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, Aquarius is an air sign, which is quite different than that Piscean water sign. It's more about thought, more about structure of things and community in particular. And so in the 1980s, we developed computers that could sit on everybody's desk. In 1985, that was when the desktop came out in the world and everybody could have a computer. I remember working with my dad when I was about, I think, 8, 9 years old. He worked for Celanese Corporation, and he worked with one of the first computers that was ever built. It was in a room the size of a football field. And I used to go to work with him on Saturdays and sit underneath that computer and just watch the cards. That was when they had the cards that would flop out and fly everywhere. So we went from that in the 50s and 60s, where there were just minimal number of computers. And then by 1985, everybody could have a computer. So that brought us into the awakening of the age of Aquarius, because Aquarius rules technology. It rules the world of community, both local, where we live, and then because of the computers, we are now in the community of the world. We can touch anywhere in the world within 15 seconds from a computer. So we are now in touch with the community of the mass consciousness, where so much work is being done now to help convert our planet out of the third dimension linear to a much more expansive delineation of being able to move between dimensions and consciousness of dimensions. So as we do that, the whole world is changing. You remember last time I talked about the time wave and how the time wave was working now, where it was our time is no longer linear. There's actually time in the moment only. And as we switch our consciousness into that higher level of operating in the whole universe, we can then achieve so much more in bringing the oneness to our whole world community. And that's not a political oneness, that's a oneness of everybody is in their place, in their home, in their town, in their country, wherever. And they are all working towards moving into the golden age. We have been spending these last 5,000 years in the Iron Age, and the Iron Age has been teaching us all of those hard lessons of the third dimension. When we're in the Iron Age, we're in a third dimension where pushback, resistance, anger exists, oversized egos exist. Well, we're getting ready to move into the age of Aquarius. We're going to be moving into the golden age. So as we let go of the third dimension, we're moving into the golden age, which was predicted to be about 10 years ago, predicted to be about 200 years from now. But what I'm noticing now is that, and not just me, but so many other people who do this work are finding that we are in a place where we are going to be in the golden age. And some people are saying that we could be in it as early as 2050. So it is really accelerated, therefore causing people to be very uncertain about their lives. We're in a time where the planet Pluto is in Capricorn. And in Capricorn, if you look historically back every 250 years, roughly 250 years, we have Pluto in Capricorn. And when he's in Capricorn, he changes the structures of politics, of financing, money, of culture, of technology, and spiritually. So you can see this reflecting in our life right now. We are having to reevaluate our world. And how are we going to save it? Number one, because there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of trouble on our planet right now. So when we come into the age of Aquarius, which is community, local and global, we're going to be working on sustaining our planet, creating our communities that will work in a way that we can relate to everybody in our local community, but then take it out to a much larger community of the world. So when we are in a Pluto Capricorn moment, it's very historic. When we go back, the last time he was in there was when we were fighting the American Revolution and the French Revolution in the 1700s.
And they wrote the Declaration of Independence, right?
Yeah, we're in the year of the Declaration of Independence with Pluto right now. So what are we doing out on our streets right now? All over the world. It's not just the United States. It's all over the world. People are declaring their Declaration of Independence from that third dimension, very linear, very attached to these rules and regulations and laws that are obsolete now. The resistance is no longer going to be there when we get to the golden age. So this is such a transition time. And when you and I talked about this a month or so ago about doing this, I really have been just letting it sit with me about what we should talk about. Because this time I'm talking to so many people around the world right now who are so unsure of what's going on. It's so overwhelming for people. You know, Marilyn, what should I do? What should I do? Where should I live? How should I do it? In a time where basically we're having to do what the Hopi say, which is go inside and learn who you are and find out why you're doing what you're doing and what is it going to look like.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to give a little explanation. So when you're saying Hopi, you're referring to the Hopi people, which is Hopi.
Yes.
Okay.
The Hopi are a tribe in Arizona, and it's an interesting place because they're right outside of Sedona, and they actually, where Sedona is, that was their territory. They've been there for 10,000 years. The mesas on the Hopi reservation have been lived in, the homes there have been lived in literally for 10,000 years. That's how far back they go, and probably further back than that. That's about where we could find any history about it. But they also had an interesting contract with the Navajo. When the Hopi and the Navajo in the 1800s, early 1800s, went to war with each other. Now, the Navajo Nation circles the Hopi. Their borders go completely around the Hopi Nation. And the Hopi Nation is flatland, desert, with these mesas that stick up, 200 feet in the air. There's 3 mesas that they prominently live on. And when the Hopi and the Navajo knew that they had to find peace with each other, the Hopi were assigned to hold God on our planet, to hold the energy of peace and harmony. The Navajo were the guardians of that territory. They circled the Hopis, and the Hopis were the ones that were holding the Kachina doll dances. They were doing the Kachina dances every year. They were asking God's, leadership in this. And then the Navajo were the warriors. They protected that whole northern part of Arizona for tens of thousands of years. So there they were working together. Well, in the last, I would say probably the last 100 years, this has become a very contentious area because of the uranium that is there. The outside world is coming in to harm that uranium. The Hopi were also to grow the food. So they fed everybody in good times and bad times. So that kind of companionship with each other was an interesting way to get to now when the world is changing. So as that's happening, the Hopi are also realizing that the world is changing. The last time I was on the reservation, I spoke with a young man who was getting ready to graduate in his adulthood. He'd been working with his grandfather, who was the teacher, and then he was going to become a teacher. He called me into his home when I was up there, and he said, "We can't do this anymore." He said, "We cannot hold this. We've got to have help from the outside." So this Hopi prayer came from that, okay? That's what he was talking about when he was talking to me. I'm not going to read it all. So the Hopi elders speak. "We are the ones we've been waiting for. You have been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. You, not them, you have been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to others. And do not look outside yourself for the leader." This could be a good thing with an exclamation. What this is what astrology is telling us. Astrology is telling us that we now have to be authentically ourselves. We have to be in good relationship with ourselves and with others in our life, because if we aren't, as they say further down, we stop the growth, our spiritual growth, if we are not congruent in ourselves. So our growth into humanity is so important now because it is that realm of authentically yourself in your own 12 steps of self-care. If you're caring for yourself and another person is caring for themselves and another person is caring for themselves, if enough people do that, our planet is going to be safe and it's going to be a place where we are no longer in conflict with each other. Now, I know that sounds very Pollyanna, but it is that way. This ability to know who you are, what relationships you're in. Do you know where your water is? In other words, do you know where your life is? Water is life. And do you know how to keep your own garden? Are you taking care of yourself with your own food supply, with your own understanding of what we need to be alive on the planet? And then the big one is, it's time to speak your truth. This is what I have been teaching for 23 years. Be authentically yourself. If you're authentic, you're in your own integrity, true integrity, and you are congruent, you are able to be in the ascension dimension, 5th, 6th, 7th right now, every day of your life. And we're no longer captured by the walls of the 3rd dimension, which is just one linear line. So as the Hopi were saying, this could be a good time, but they further say in here, it could be a scary time. It could be a time of change. It could be a time of you letting go of things that don't serve you anymore. And sometimes those things are very close to you, including people in your life. So it's really, I'm seeing more and more of that coming to me in readings about, my sister no longer speaks to me. My mother-in-law, took me off her Facebook. Just stuff like that is just showing up everywhere. And that's this Hopi, be in right relation with yourself. And then the relationships that should be around you will find you. And that is what they're trying to teach us. If we are able to do this self-care, live in the now and present, and not in a linear timeline anymore, we're in a place where we live in an experience. We're in different experiences and they're in the moment, and that's all there is. Then we receive the things we need. We know who to let into our lives. We know who should be there. We know where we can go and can't go in our authentic self. I think one of the things that gets talked about so much is integrity. I think integrity is misunderstood because we've grown up in the 3rd dimension lifetimes of believing that integrity is measured by a judgment of someone else. And I really am speaking out about that. Our integrity is part of our chart. Each person's integrity is very different and at a very different level. So that integrity is so important now to, just as the 12 steps say what you mean, but don't be mean, and then speak your truth. If your integrity is not there, my integrity is not your integrity. Each one of us souls is here at a different level in a different time, and our experience of integrity is very personal. So I ask people now, when you're talking about being in integrity, which, please do not turn on the TV, but you can see where integrity is getting shattered every day in the news. And when that's happening, it locks us into the 3rd dimension, and we can't move forward into the golden age until we let go of that.
What do you mean by that? Just to clarify, what do you mean it locks us when we...
Well, it's like they say here. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who are afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart, and they will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination, higher consciousness. The elders say we must let go of the shore push off into the middle of the river. Keep our eyes open and our heads above water. See who is there with you and celebrate. At this point in time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and our journey comes to a halt. Meaning, as soon as we let fear get us, and as soon as we believe we've got to hold on to everything that should be allowed to move on, that pulls us back into the third dimension, linear, very, very tough judgment time, and pulls us away from the golden age. So the more we hold on to the riverbank, the more we're delaying the ability of the golden age to come to us.
So to your point about just the current propaganda on the television and the controlled narrative that, what we're hearing, it's interesting because people are looking for that certainty. They're looking for that crystal ball of what's happening, what's going to happen to me. Like, what do I need to know so I can be safe and secure? And when is the world going to go back to normal and all this stuff? What I love about ancestral medicine and the medicine carriers, the medicine women and men of centuries ago, was there was no separation with nature and the elements and them. Everything was in relationship, and they viewed it as the great harmony of all, and the cycle of birth and death and regeneration. It was all part of one. And that connection was instilled with them from birth all the way through childhood, adolescence, and everything. So they didn't grow up ever feeling alone. They always felt very connected because in their souls, they felt part of Mother Earth. They felt part of the stars, and all of their stories and legends and teachings and myths would teach them of this great connection of support in the web of life. What I think I'm hearing this prophecy say is that we need to get back to that. And this is what people are missing. This is what people are looking for. This is people trying to get this from the television and from social media. And what is going on? Where is my security? Where is my love? Where am I going to be okay? Science used to be entwined with myth and spirituality. There weren't any separation. I think what the prophecy is saying is we need to get back to this because this is the answer. This is the only answer. It's not going to be any other way. Otherwise, we're going into the sixth extinction.
It's right. And the next sentence tells us why. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. It is time for us to get back to our community, not individually lone wolf, but being in respect of every part of where we live and how we live and who we live with. The respect of the land, the respect of the animals, the respect of people and of cultures has got to shift. That is just something that is, and it's already happening. We're already finding that around the world now. There are so many communities now that are standing up for themselves and demanding their respect and demanding that we have respect for everyone. Mm-hmm. So this is critical right now. And this is very native based. The ancestors and having, I hope that everybody someday on their bucket list can either come to the Hopi Navajo place there and stand where 10,000 years of people stood. The ancestors are there for 10,000 years. If you come east to the Smoky Mountains here in Cherokee, the Cherokee Reservation in Western North Carolina, we have been here for 10,000 years. We are the East Sedona. And the crystals are here, the underground rivers are here, just like they are at the Hopi Reservation. They have underground rivers. That's how they grow their corn. And we do that here. We have underground rivers. The little town I live in has a river right underneath Main Street that runs all the way over to Tennessee. So we get that the water is coming so important again. Water is the spiritual. It is the feeling, it's the knowing. And to get our water energy back, and then also for us to learn to respect ourselves as well as other people. I think we've lost respect for ourselves in some cases. And we've got to own that back again.
Well, we can't have self-respect if you're not in integrity. So it goes back to what you were saying, because you can talk all day long about how this and that is important to you, but your priorities are where your feet are and where you spend your money and how you spend your time.
Exactly.
And that's the end of the story. So, and to your point about all the relationships that have had such turmoil and sadness going on with the opinions about vaccination and rights and speech and all this stuff, it's just so sad because people, it takes a lot of bravery to speak your truth with love. And because people don't want to lose love. They don't want to lose acceptance and belonging to their tribe, whether it be their family, their partner, their friends. It's very scary at the level of our DNA to think you're going to be isolated, because that used to mean death. I mean, you couldn't survive alone. So a lot of times and I, as an ex-people pleaser, I know very well about all this, not speaking my truth. So I'm speaking from experience of how hard it was for me to really start being brave and really saying how I felt about something when I knew it wasn't going to make certain people happy. It was not only going to get disapproval, but it was going to get me, shamed and yelled at or left alone or whatever it may be. But it was amazing when I finally found the strength to do it, because I had to get in enough pain that I really had no choice. I had to do it at that point. But when I finally had the strength to do it and started living that way, yes, I did lose relationships. I will not lie. But found a better one with myself.
Yes.
I found the relationship with myself. I was integrity with myself. I was standing a little taller. Talk about self-confidence. Talk about the ability to really feel good about who I was, because I could look myself in the mirror and hold my head up. And it was just very subtle, but I felt it. Maybe no one else did. So I understand what you're saying about being in integrity. And I hear what people are saying, like, oh, but so-and-so. Yeah, you might lose some relationships, but you're going to find new ones. But first, you're going to get the one back with yourself. And self-trust is essential in order to be authentic and to be in integrity. That's for sure.
Well, and you can't go anywhere without that understanding of yourself. That's just who you are. Also, something interesting you kind of sparked for me was that people now are living to be in their hundreds. I mean, it's very common. Well, when astrology first started, the life expectancy of a person was less than 25 years. They didn't have to live through cycles like we have to. If you lived to be 25 years old, you didn't even get to do your first Saturn return. Well, now we're getting people that are doing their third Saturn return in their 90s and not blinking about it. Okay, now what do I do? Well, that's not written about in the astrology books, because there weren't enough people that lived to be 90 to have statistics about it. So as astrologers now, we are being challenged with that effort to, when someone calls up, well, what should I do? How should I do that? I'm 60 years old. I want a relationship. Well, that's not written about in astrology books, because the books are all written before we really knew all of this. And these books, most of the books were written now. There are books being written now, finally. But back in the 50s and 60s, there weren't astrology books about the future. And so here we are now learning that what do we tell somebody about being authentic? We never had to worry about that. They were going to be dead before they could. So it didn't really matter. But now it's huge. The shift of how astrology is working in somebody's life is massively different than it was 50 years ago. And so as we're learning now how we're going to live to be, I have a little group of people who they're my 120 group. And there's, I don't know, probably 10 of them. And they all know each other. And they're my 120 group, meaning they believe they're going to live to be 120 years old. And they want me to tell them what they're going to be doing. Well, goodness.
Well, belief is the first half of accomplishing it. You have to believe it's possible to even set yourself up for.
But we're moving into the age of Aquarius, where technology is just going to explode on this continent. We're going to have the med beds. They're already here. So we're going to be able to put somebody in a med bed and pretty much reconstruct their cellular system so that they're healthy. And that means we could live to be 150 years old without any trouble. So as we're doing this, we're expanding. And I think this is the fun thing about the Hopi thing. And I want to say that way because I want people to take this right. It says here, banish the world struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for, meaning that we cannot be afraid of these changes that are coming. We can't be afraid of losing people that are in our circle because we're going to live, I've lived a long time. And so I've had friends come and go. I've had family come and go. And so here we are now understanding that if we follow the energy cycles of our chart, if we do the 30-year Saturn returns, if we do those every 30 years, we should clean our closets. We need to go meet new people. We need to go do new things. And we need not to let that be a bad thing. We need to celebrate what we did with those people in that group of 30 years and then say, you know what, send me a Christmas card. I'm going out in the world and I'm going to get friends that are in my next 30 years. Love you dearly. Not personal. I got to go. And that's what we're trying to learn now is we have this fear that if we let go of something, we're going to have a loss. The Hopi are telling us here, no. Celebrate your changes. Celebrate what you're doing, what you're letting go of. The more we let go of, the more we're going to be in that experience of in the moment, and the more closely we are going to pull that golden age back into actually 2050. And then we're not bumping each other's ego. We're not bumping each other's lack of respect anymore. It's really powerful. And we are the ones we've been waiting for. This is the 11th hour, and we are here to do this. We came here in this lifetime to do it.
And it's up to us. And I say this all the time, not doing anything and hoping other people are going to do something is an action. Inaction is an action. By not doing anything and being passive, you're not going to contribute to the progress.
Right.
It's up to us. Every person has to be brave. What's that saying? A coward dies many deaths, but a courageous person dies only once.
Yes.
And I would rather die once and die on my feet rather than on my knees. So I also interpret the word sacred in that it's reminding people to keep the holy in the now, like keep your attachment to the ritual of what you're doing, the sacred, the meaning, the purpose, the beauty of it. Like, I'm not just doing laundry and picking up the kids and going to the store and, all the mundane. The medicine teachers always teach people to make the mundane sacred. The divine is in all things, right? So keeping the present moment magical, that's really where the juice is. And then the celebration to me is the message to stay attached to your joy. And like you keep saying, not in the fear, because in the fear, you're going in the opposite direction. Whereas when you stay attached to the joy, I call it the pull. It's attractive, it's magnetic, it's going to pull you forward rather than, flush you down the toilet, basically, which is what the fear will do.
Exactly. When we talk about the 12 steps of self-care, I remind people, when you read this is not psychology. This is actually the physics of how we leave the third dimension and move into the time wave where everything is happening in the now and present. You have to understand that you are safe if you are in that moment, not thinking of anything in the past, not thinking of the future, but in the moment, and you are aware of what comes across your path. And what comes across your path is an asset that the universe is showing you so that you can make good decisions in your life.
And that requires you to already have, or at least start having, a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
So your vehicle of interpretation is accurate and you're picking up the signals, the feedback, the guidance from the universe around you. As the Hopi Prayer says, it starts with the relationship with yourself, going within, going into your heart. How does this person feel inside you? This concept, the idea, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel lighter or heavier? Does it bring you into joy, hope, inspiration? Or does it make you feel afraid, closed, tense? Does it tense up your shoulders, your neck, your back, make you want to just, hide? So having yourself as a barometer and that relationship is something that needs to be cultivated. So you have a good instrument for feedback.
Well, and one of the things that in the last 2,000 years happened to us as humans, we were brought into a religious order that had to do with taking our instincts away from us. And you talk to the Native Americans, until we had COVID, I got the last 3 years, before COVID, I got to go to the gatherings that the Cherokee have twice a year, once in the spring,
Wow.
and the fall. It took me 4 years to get an invite with this blonde hair, but it was wonderful. And so I learned so much in those years because they really get how important it is to trust your instincts. They're always in the moment. They're watching, they're looking.
They train them as children. They train their instincts. Like we in school, our kids are trained, first grade, second grade from a book. The answers are in the back, all that stuff. Right. They don't do that. They train the children to their thought process and how to cultivate it out in the woods by all the things they do all the time. Right. It's part of their culture.
Yes. That was what made it so hard when the white man got here, that to fight them, because they were always 3 steps ahead of us because of their instincts. So that is something we're having to relearn, is to be who we authentically are. We have to trust ourselves. When somebody calls me and says, well, I need to move, I don't know where to go, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And I said, just stop, be still, listen. What are you hearing? Does somebody keep saying Boulder, Colorado on the TV? Do you see a sign on a board that keeps saying Boulder, Colorado? Watch.
Pay attention. Pay attention
to your inner self, and don't ignore it when you see it.
And that can't happen when your nose is in your phone every 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Because nature's always talking to you. I say that in one of my shows with I think it was Rosanne Grace, the second episode, when I've been looking for my home, and right when I put an offer in on a house, I was walk Charlotte every day, my little dog, and I came across a bird's nest on the ground right next to me. And then a little bit later, I came across a hornet's nest with a community. So, but this is just an example for people. Like, this is how nature talks to us all the time. But if I was on my phone or texting or whatever, or in my head, I wouldn't have been paying attention to see the signs. And like you said, a road sign, a friend mentions a term or the name of a city. Like the universe is, and people are always saying, I need help. Where's my help? No one's help. It's like, well, maybe it is. You just got to open your mind to the ways that life is trying to help you. It might not come in the form you're expecting it. Let's talk about self-care. So you've referred to the 12 steps of self-care. This is kind of your go-to list, your little credo that you like to use with all your clients. You've used it forever. Tell us the story of how you came across it. Let's share what the 12 steps are.
That was kind of amazing. 2 weeks before 9/11, I had 2 visions that were brought to me about how the world was going to move. This left me to work with the idea that we were going to have to really begin to trust ourselves. And that the only way we could go into the ascension dimensions, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dimensions, the only way we could do that is to be authentically in our own energy field. So I went on a quest. And about 2000, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, I started talking about this earnestly. And I said, we're going to reach a point where we have to be selfish. And we're going to have to be selfish. And so people got after me about that a little bit. They said, well, Marilyn, that's kind of a very negative thing. I said, no, being selfish is part of setting your boundaries. It's not a negative. You need to set your boundaries of who you are authentically, integrally, and congruently. And so that's what this is. Well, we don't like that. We don't like that.
The word selfish is what triggered them.
Yeah. I wish you'd find something else. And I couldn't. I finally sat down with God one night and I said, look, you got to give me something here. I said, the point I'm trying to make here. And you know that I need it to be something that people can embrace. So I said, I'm leaving it in your hands. You just bring it to me. So my partner is Native American. He is Cherokee. And he had to go to the hospital on the reservation to be treated he pulled a muscle in his back when he was working. And so I drove him up there. I put him in a chair because he was not moving well. And I went up to the sign-in desk at the reception area, and I looked up, and there, sitting on the desk, literally a poster-size poster of the 12 steps to self-care. And I stopped there for a minute. I went, oh my God, it's it, the 12 steps to self-care. And I started reading them. And of course, the first one is, if it feels wrong, don't do it. The second one is say exactly what you mean. I add to that, you don't need to be mean to say that. And then it says, don't be a people pleaser, one of your favorites. And then the fourth one, I saw the fourth one and it said, trust your instincts. And it was like the sky opened up and they just dumped it on me. I went, oh my God, this is God sent. This is what he brought me, was this.
I just got goosebumps.
I know. And it was just amazing. I almost lost my breath standing there at the desk. As a matter of fact, the girl at the desk said, are you all right? I said, I will be in a minute. Give me a minute.
I love it. Yeah. I need to sit down.
I need to sit down for a minute. So that was the beginning of this for me. And that was back in the early teens. And so I said, how this got to me was that I belong to a group of women who are mostly centered in Asheville, North Carolina, and we're grandmothers. We're all, over the hill age for grandmothers. And we would meet before the world changed. We would meet, 2 or 3 times a year and spend a couple of days together and just talk. And so they were the ones that really pushed me. They said, you've got to find something different. So that was, of course, some of them are Cherokee. So here they pushed me right to the reservation. So that happened. But the truth of it is, this is where, when you read this, and I tell people when I send it to them, sounds like psychology. If you don't want to do it, quit doing it. If it's wrong, if it feels wrong. Well, then all of a sudden I got down to the last 10 and 11, And 10 is let go of what you don't or what you can't control. And 12 and 11 is stay away from drama and negativity. Those are, when I looked at that, I went, those are third dimension place. That's the only place they can happen is in third dimension. Control is ego, an ego out of control. And then staying, keeping away from negative and that, really struggle with negativity and drama, which is what the Hopi said here, celebrate your change. Don't be bringing it up and making drama out of it. So when I finally read this, when I got home, I took a picture of it with my camera, and then I came home and got online and found it. And so I've been sending this to as many people as I can for years. So it's really important to understand this is the physics of how you leave the third dimension. You have to start at step 1, and to get to 12, which is capital LOVE on this, that's code for consciousness. If you are conscious, you cannot go into drama, you cannot go into negativity. If you are conscious, you can't even begin to understand that you think you should be in control. Your soul is in the flow of the I am when you are not doing either one of those, for sure. So this is what the Hopi were saying. We've got to let go of the lone wolf. We've got to understand that we're not in control of anybody but ourselves, and we're not even in control of that. We are in command of ourselves. If we are in command of ourselves, which means we are authentic, we are integral, it means that we are in the belief that we trust the time wave where everything in an experience is there because we need it, and it will help us, and we will receive something for that. And if we stay aware of that and don't fight with it, then we're going to be in the golden age by 2050.
And we do that by staying attached to the sacred and the celebration, by staying attached to our joy and our heart and the water, which is our emotions and our feelings, which is self-care step number 1. If it feels wrong, don't do it. I think it's interesting it uses the word feels.
Yes.
It feels wrong.
Right.
That means you have to embody yourself for the answer. How does it feel inside of you?
It's the instinct of your third chakra is where you feel.
Yes, it doesn't say if you think it's wrong, or it says if it feels wrong, don't do it.
Exactly. And that is instinctually, when it hits you, that's where our truth is. There is no other place for truth on this planet but our gut. Right there, that third chakra says to us, watch out for that person, or watch out, put your foot on the brake, and you do it. You trust it and you do it.
Or yes, you should do this. Yes, you should do this. No, you shouldn't do it. Right. Yes, you should trust this. That person's telling the truth. Whatever it may be, whatever your answers are, we are the people we are looking for. Don't go to just because someone has a white coat on or tells you, trust me, you should, right? Can you please just go through all 12 and maybe slowly, so people, and these will be, we'll get these up, if not on the show notes, definitely on my website when the episode goes up.
Okay. So the first one is the kicker, because if we violate this one, we will stay in the fear and stuck in the third dimension. All right. It's what the Hopi said. We'll stay there in that fear if we don't let go. So first one is, if it feels wrong, don't do it. We have been trained, especially in the Western culture of the United States, to do things that we don't want to do because we might lose our job, or we might lose a friend, or somebody might talk about us behind our back. This is the one that has locked us steadfastly in that third dimension for 10,000 years. Say exactly what you mean. And as I said before, I like to add, you don't.
That's number two. That's number two. Number two.
Yes, say exactly what you mean. It's funny because when I started teaching this, I had a couple of people go, well, I said what I meant, and then they got all mad at me and they're not speaking to me now. I said, did you say it in a nice way?
Yes, with love. I like to say, speak your truth with love. I always add
love. That. Exactly. So I now preface that with say what you mean and don't be mean when you say it.
And that also is saying, Marilyn, don't be passive aggressive, because there's a lot of people who are passive aggressive and they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And it's a double entendre, double meaning. It's like, no, just be direct, be honest, but be kind.
Yes, exactly. 3 is don't be a people pleaser. That's another Western culture thing that we brought in with the Puritan movement in the 1600s. That whole feeling that we have to please somebody else first before we get to be pleased.
Particularly as women.
Particularly as women.
Take care of everybody else first.
Yes, exactly.
And you come last. Yeah.
So, again, if somebody wants you to do something or ask you to do their stuff, again, you can say what you mean. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. I appreciate you thinking I should, but I'm not going to. The end.
Or at least just have those boundaries. Like, there's a time for there's a time for helping others, of course. Yes. But just don't lose yourself. I always like to tell people, don't forget to take care of yourself too. I'm all for taking care of other people, but include yourself in the equation.
Yeah. Well, I've learned through the years that that people who overserve in ways, they spend themselves too quickly.
Oh, hello. Yeah, it's called burnout. I know all about it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so you can't help somebody if you're wiped out. So Absolutely. This is just, come on, people, take care of yourself. Don't wipe yourself out because you can't help anybody then. Then don't be the people pleaser is a real critical one. I hear a lot of people say, boy, that's what I've done all my life. Number 4, we've got to learn to trust our instincts, because that is truth. I mean, I don't know how many times in my life where I have trusted my instinct and put my foot on the brake and an 18-wheeler came through the intersection. I just didn't know why I needed to do it or whatever, but it just said do it, and I did it. I trusted it. That is critical now with the changes that are happening. Trust yourself, and trust yourself that you trust yourself.
Yes, and I'd want to interject when we say instincts to clarify that was a beautiful example of the 18-wheeler, because the instinctual body and the instinctual self operates in a nanosecond at the beginning. Yes. And you will miss it. It's like it's not a linear time, that's for sure.
No, it isn't.
It's that immediate pang you get, and then it's gone. So if you don't pay attention, it's very easy to intellectualize your way out of it and say that, oh, that was nothing. I mustn't have really felt it. It must have been the wind. It must have been, just to completely rationalize your way out of your own instincts. And then that's a muscle that will atrophy very quickly. So that's how the instincts work, very fast.
It costs you a lot if you don't do it. It can cost you a lot, including your life sometimes. Mm-hmm. Now, number 5 is never speak bad about yourself. Oh, Lordy, that's another Puritan thing that got violated very early. So we have that instinct, but then if we talk bad about ourselves, that takes away all the trust we think we have. When you talk bad about yourself, it's because you don't trust yourself. So that is so critical, that when you're doing these steps, and these steps need to become rote, they just need to be automatic now. And the more people that are practicing it, the more it is becoming that. So,
and I think it was a way of just not bragging and being grandiose and all that. But there's a difference between, a false humility, like a lot of people will do. Oh, it was nothing, whatever. It's like, but we're not really talking about that. We're talking about just have your own back. Just don't speak badly about yourself. You don't have to brag, but at the same time, don't demote yourself and put yourself down. Like, treat yourself like, I always like to say, always speak to your inner child, always, because they're always listening. And
that
remember
is where
that.
you speak, is your inner child. Because that's where we can get our feelings hurt. We are not worth something. So it's very important that we honor that for ourselves. Then never give up on your dream.
Beautiful.
And that one is subtle because we grew up in families in the Western culture particularly, and in Eastern cultures. It's not just our bailiwick. We grew up believing that when we dream, when we're a child, I'm going to be this and this and this. And I'm going to give a personal example of that. When I was growing up, I had severe dyslexia, and I could not read, literally could not read. And when I was in the 5th grade, the school system called my mother up and told her to come and get me, that I was a moron. I was not teachable. Yeah, in the 5th grade, when I was in the 5th grade.
Wow.
And so she came and picked me up, and she says, what am I going to do with you, And I said, I don't know. I was 10 years old, I knew stuff. So I never trusted what they said. I mean, I knew I was smart. I knew I was intellectual. And so I didn't let it bother me near as much as my beautiful Puritan mama, Irish mama, was. And so I knew that somewhere something was screwed up. I got to, through a long series, I got to go back to school. When I got into the 8th grade, they had a meeting with my mother and I, and we talked about what my high school was going to be like. What was I going to take? Was I going to take a college route? Was I going to take a business route? What was I going to do? Well, when I remember, I can still see that woman in front of me right now. When we were sitting there, I told her I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to be an interior designer. So she said, what? I said, I want to be an interior designer. She looked at my records, and she looked at my current year, and she says, Mrs. Dumont, no, this isn't going to work. She's going to have to take business classes because she'll never be able to get through college. And that was my dream. I used to draw pictures of furniture. I used to draw pictures of curtains. I was all into the art. I'm a Leo. I want art. And so I was all into it. And she just popped the balloon. And my mother just let her pop that balloon. And so the rest of my life in high school was becoming an accountant so that I could earn some money. So it's interesting that in my latter years, I have learned how to use that art now and been able to express it for myself. And it's just been beautiful doing that. But this one is a powerful, it sounds like, let's not forget your dreams. It's one that can be critically changing in someone's life.
Yes. I like that you said that, it's right. Oh, it sounds really nice, but really sink that in what it's saying. Never give up on your dreams.
Exactly. And I'm hearing that from people now who are changing from being an accountant and wanting to do something else, or moving into the healing centers and moving into those kind of things. And that's their dream. They want to do it. And they go, well, but I can't make any money at it. I said, well, if you say that enough times, you won't. So
or maybe, do it on the side, it can
start out with it.
You have to feed your soul, and your dreams will feed your soul in some regard.
So that one is so overlooked. We kind of brush by it. And that one is so important. Our dream that's why Steve Jobs lived for 9 years with pancreatic cancer.
And many other people like that, live for a dream. Yeah. Keeps them going.
His passion for his work kept him alive. Your passion of your dream is going to keep you alive, and not just to be in your body, but to be alive, celebrating of your life.
Yes.
So that's really, really critical there.
Excellent. All right. 7.
7 is don't be afraid to say no, and 8 is don't be afraid to say yes.
I love that.
I do too.
That's great. The two.
And it's because you can think back, as you're listening to this, think back the times you said yes when you meant no, and no when you said yes.
Yes.
And that's so important that we own how we're really thinking about something. No, I really don't want to go to that movie tonight, I want to go to that movie. So,
And I love don't be afraid to say yes, because you do hear don't be afraid to say no a lot these days, because it's very needed. We all say things that do stuff we don't want to do. But don't be afraid to say yes. Be brave. Like, oh my God, I'm nervous. I won't know anyone there. Or I feel like an idiot, or I don't know how to dance, or whatever it may be, right? Or I've never traveled alone, or whatever it may be. Be afraid to say yes. That's critical.
Well, that also, when we say yes, we commit to something. And so when we say yes, then we've got to come across. And so then we have to get our brave on. We have to get our courage on to do that.
Yes.
And
take action. Yep.
It's tough for people to take the action in it.
Excellent.
Yes. Then 9 is be kind to yourself.
That's a big one.
It's a little different than the don't speak bad about yourself, but be kind to yourself is as or maybe more important, because being kind to yourself creates a feeling of respect.
Compassion.
It is. It's compassion and respect. It really
gentleness, compassion, like and it has to do with not speaking bad about yourself too, but it's that compassion, like what you would want your mama to say to you if you fell off your bike or kids picked on you at school or whatever, it's okay, honey, you'll find other friends or whatever it is, just speaking that way to yourself is so critical.
It is, most definitely. And then the number 10 that we talked about before, let go of what you can't control. And control is such an ominous word, because control makes you believe that you are in charge of something, and you are not. When you are in control, you are in the least charge of anything. And control is an ego energy of the third dimension. And control,
grasping and clinging, right?
It is, but it's also a word of judgment.
Oh.
Yes, I've been talking about this for years. When we talk about being in control, control is where we want to tell someone else how they need to lead their life, or we want them to tell them how they need to do something, because obviously they must not be smart enough. Control is about being superior.
Wow.
And in that, it takes the options away from any project, any issue that you're dealing in. So know that that control is a horrible word when it comes to interaction with people. So control means that I have to be there and make sure everything gets done right. Where when I am in command of myself, I can let go of something, delegate it, have someone else's opinion in there, accept that, have them do it, and then the project or the issue is worked and it runs smoothly. So control is a third dimension. So if you get through all of those 9 and then you hit that control and you go, no, I can't let go of that. I'm in control of that. That's my project. I can't hand it off to anyone else. Nobody else knows how to do it. Guess what? You just undid the first 9.
Plus, I hear number 10, let go of what you can't control, is meaning just you can only control your reaction and what you're doing and staying in your integrity. And to our point before, if you're speaking your truth with love, you can't control how someone else is going to react. You can't control what someone else is doing. So you just got to let that go. Otherwise, if you just get all pissed off and, outraged that they're doing this and that, and they're littering or whatever it may be, you just have to be the example and control, clean up your own yard first, so to speak, right?
Well, you do. And the thing is that control never really won any wars. if we let go, remember what the 12 steps are about. 12 steps of self-care. It's not the 12 steps of caring about everybody else doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah, self-care, right. It's not world care.
Hello,
Yeah.
it's self-care.
Yep.
So that's a critical one. And when people say, well, I've got a job I've got to do, I've got to get things done, I said, be in command. Command means that you let other people do their thing, define what you need, and you define what the project is, let them put their part in it, and all of a sudden it's like magic, it works. So it's a really letting go of that one is critical in these times. And that's what the Hopi said here. Letting go for the river to pull you where it's taking you. That's the spiritual. The minute you hold on, you're taking the spiritual power that you have, the self-trust that you have, and it's just hanging there. It can't do anything.
Right. And the other expression, don't fight the river. So in this analogy of if you're in the rowboat or the little raft going down the rapids, as the Hopis is saying, let the river take you where it's taking you, as opposed to if you're trying to control it and use your little paddle and you're paddling like hell to try to turn the raft to go in the other direction and the river's taking you this way. Like, let go of what you can't control. Know how to pick your battles is how I interpret that.
Well, that is, but it also goes to understanding that if you trust yourself, your authentic self, it's never going to take you someplace that you shouldn't be. And that's so important for understanding.
And that goes back to our masculine feminine polarity too. The feminine is just the trust and allowing the flow, and having that discretion of when is it time to paddle like hell and when is it time to take up your oars and just let the current take you into something better than you even imagined it could be.
I mean, you really can't. The number of things that we have not allowed the universe to give us because we can't let go.
There you go.
It's so when we get that one, we're going to be okay.
There you go.
Then number 11, stay away from drama and negativity. Oh, lousy. I tell people, please turn your TV off. Do not watch that.
Well, I always say, it's like we're discriminatory with what we put in our bodies. You have to be discriminatory what you put in your mind.
Yes.
Your mental diet, what you're feeding your brain and your heart and your spirit is just as important as the nutrients you put in your body, So you're programming your brain and your beliefs with things that you hear, and you're programming your cells and your organs and your tissues how to function with the nutrients. It's all the same. Drama and negativity. I think that's key. That's key.
And then the love, LOVE, capital letters is very important, because what that means is the consciousness.
And this is step 12, love.
That's step 12. So that is where you reach being able to go to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dimensions. And when you're there, there's nothing in your way. If you are in that flow, if you let go and get into the flow of that river of consciousness, everything is waiting there in that experience. And everything in that experience is available to you. It's not like the 3rd dimension where we had to set goals and we had to have tasks and we had to have actions and we had to get the actions done in a year and then we got the reward. Now, every minute of our life can be lived in the reward, because the capsule of being in this experience, we get everything we need. We get all the resources we need. We get all the people we need. We get all the places we need. All of that is waiting for us to be aware of it as it's going. This time wave sheet tells you the physics of how we're living on this planet now, and it's in the moment. And we are in the trust of trusting ourselves, our soul, our compassion. The more you do that, the more the experience opens up and gives you everything you need, the resources you need.
Yes. So what I'm hearing you say is ultimately when we get in harmony with all of these things and with all of life, it alleviates a lot of the burden and the struggle, and it's more of a sense of ease and flow, and the whole experience becomes almost supernatural. and what we would regard as supernatural in our
Yes.
third dimension thinking.
It is supernatural.
Mhm.
It's because it's happening now in the third dimension. If we wanted something, we had to write down what we wanted, set a goal, set the tasks, do the tasks, and then at the end we got that. If we did the tasks, we got what we wanted.
Yep.
Now we are in the experience every day, and in that experience, we get everything we need if we're aware of it. If we follow that experience in awareness and trust it, even if it sounds crazy as anything, if we trust it. And I'm getting people now who are doing that, who are telling me the stories of the most magnificent things that are happening in their lives.
Can you give us an example as we come toward the end of the show, what you mean by in that experience and just trust it? Like, give us a real tangible example of how someone does that.
When I was in my 40s, late 40s, I was the operating manager for the whole company. Well, I worked there for, 4 years, and I wasn't getting a raise. I wasn't doing anything, and I was working the job of 3 people. So I said to myself, well, this is crazy. I'm pretty well into this. So I went to my boss, who, and this was believe it or not, a copier company. We sold copiers back when they were the thing. And so I went in and I said, I need to get a raise. I'm running this place for you, and I've worked hard. And he looked at me and he said, Marilyn, he said, I want you to turn around and look out onto the floor where all the salesmen were sitting in a meeting getting ready to go out and sell copiers. He said, look out there, look at everybody. He says, look at everybody in the company. Now, what is the difference between you and them? So I sat there and I thought, well, I have no idea what he's talking about. So I finally said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, what is the difference? He said, you are the only person in this company who does not have a college education.
Oh.
He said, you can quit your job here and go somewhere else, and the same thing is going to happen. He said, you did not get your education. Well, one of the things I did was I hired and fired people there. So I had a recruiter that I worked with. So I thanked him. I said, you know what? Thank you for being honest. I appreciate that. I went back out to my desk. I sat down. I called my recruiter. I picked up the phone and I called my recruiter. And I said, Susan, this is Marilyn. I need your help. I need you to find me a job, 9 to 5. I said, make it an accounts payable, accounts receivable job, something I can go to work for 8 hours and be done. I don't have to take the problems home with me. I want to go back to college. I'm going to enroll in night school. She goes, really, Marilyn, do you want to do that? And I said, yep, I do. So I said, go find me a job. I said, if they want to argue, you tell them I'll be there at least 4 years because I'll be going to night school, maybe 5, and that they'll have me for all that time, and I don't care what they pay me. I just want a job. So she said, well, all right, I'll see what I can do. So I sat there, and I was working on some papers, and she calls me 15 minutes later. And she said, Marilyn, are you sitting down? So I said, yes. And she said, I have made an appointment with you an hour from now to go to Oglethorpe University in downtown Atlanta. It was only about 15 miles from where I worked. She said, go there. She said, the director of admissions needs an assistant. And she said, I think this is the job for you. So I said, okay. She says, well, you want to hear the benefits of free education. The only thing you'll have to pay for is your books. And guess what? You get to attend 2 classes a semester during work hours, as long as you get your job done. Then she said, they have family housing on the campus. So you could probably get family housing on the campus too if you wanted it. I hung that phone up. I went, told my boss, I says, I got to go out for a few minutes. I'll be back. I went over to the university. He hired me on the spot. He says, of course I'll take you. He says, this is a gift for me. So I took the job. I said, he says, when can you come to work? I said, how about tomorrow? He says, oh my God, yes. He says, I need you so bad, because it was in August, right before the semester started. So he needed help. So I said, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I went back to my office. I walked into my office, my boss's office, and I looked at him and I said, I'm clearing out my desk, because I said, you're going to fire me. I said, I just took a job for tomorrow. He got the biggest smile on his face. And he said to me, you go, girl. It took 6 years to get that education, but I got to live on campus. I got to everything free, everything except my books. And that was it. I got in the boat with Jupiter. When he told me I would never make it, I said to myself, I've never not made it. So we're going to go make it happen. And Jupiter looked at me and said, girl, get in the boat. We're rowing. You're going to have that job this afternoon. And I did.
Well, the thing is you showed the universe, you showed life that you meant it. You took action. You know, you can't just do this law of attraction stuff and sit in your room. You've got to take the action. And life meets you halfway. When it sees that you're serious and you're moving towards it, it'll move toward you.
Yes. And I've had that happen to me more than once. In my lifetime, I've had people give me cars. Just give me the keys. I've had 3 cars given to me. And I mean, I don't mean, old timer cars.
Wow. I've had people give me a box of cookies.
Yeah. I've had people give me their cars. So I'll tell you, if you do this, it works.
Yeah.
It works. If you trust yourself enough to believe you're worth it, you get it. And that's that. Don't talk bad about yourself,
Love it. So that is your example of how people actually practically apply this movement from the 3rd dimension to the 5th.
Yes, Jupiter is our benevolent planet. He gives us what we need to operate in the physical plane. And so when we trust ourselves that what we need is what we need, then if we get in the boat with him rowing, we're in the boat rowing with him, and he brings it to us every time. It's the most unusual things that you think, well, how would I get that? And that's how we have to let go of thinking it has to be a certain way.
I like the expression, take the limits off God. Like, don't intellectualize it. Don't over logicalize it. Like, just don't rationalize your way out of your dream. Just dream it and go towards it and feel it and let that attraction carry you and believe it, and just keep paying attention to signs around you of where to turn right, where to turn left, when to say yes, when to say no. Stay in your body. Always bring something against your heart and feel for answers. Yes, exactly. And more and more people are doing that now. There are still people caught in that 3rd dimension, and I tell them, please let go of that as quick as you can, because that's the least safe place to be now. And well, it's almost like Marilyn, it'd be almost like somebody trying to use one of the computers that you mentioned back in the 80s, like today in 2020, right? It's like, it's just, don't be using that old software for the new world.
Right.
You're not going to get very good results, and it's going to be a hell of a lot harder.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah. So it's like, it'd be like someone not learning how to use a phone to call or text people. Now they'd really be compromised in how they're able to communicate. It's like, okay, do you want to step forward with us? Then you got to learn the new ways of being in the 5th dimension.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the more we get there and the more we get comfortable with it, it's going to become, it's going to be like a habit. We'll get into the habit of it. This 12 steps is a habit.
Yes.
And once we learn it and we do it every day, it just becomes rote. That's how it happens.
All right. So everybody's homework is to print it and put it on your refrigerator or your bathroom mirror and read it or look at it, and just maybe 1 week at a time, take one of them. It's actually, I know it's on my website. Take one of them at a time and practice them just for that day, that week, whatever. And like Marilyn is saying, eventually it'll become part of who you are and how you function, how you live. And then watch for the miracles.
Yes. I mean, when I hear the stories, sometimes it just absolutely, it's almost makes me giggle, because I think, who could have thought that up?
So simple. And I love that. The simplest thing. Yep. The simplest things are the most powerful. It doesn't have to be fancy. You know, it's like your diet, food, water, get to sleep, stay away from negative people.
Right.
I mean, it's not complicated how to be healthy, folks. It really isn't.
Right.
Just like self-care. Marilyn, this has been amazing.
Oh.
Wow. We're getting to the end here. I could keep you forever. Obviously, we're going to have you back again. Is there anything else on your heart that you want to say as we come to a close?
Well, I tell you, this has been delightful. It's been so fun talking with you today, as it always is. And, you know, I just wish people to find that spot where they can do their thing, where they can get things going. And to also, in that, be in a place where they're open to this, they're open to themselves. And that's really, really important. And then, you know, reach out to people, talk to them about where you are, what you're doing, and find that community again. We need
share
to
your
find
feelings.
that community again.
Share your feelings, share your needs. People can't help you if they don't know you want help, you need help. You know, people aren't mind readers. And I love that you mentioned about being open-minded. You know, if you're feeling frustrated or stuck or something's not working in your life, part of your body hurts, or you feel like you're just not getting anywhere, that's a call to open your mind to something new. And you can't break forward until you're willing to allow another way in. So let go of what you're holding on to.
Boy, that is a truth statement, if ever there was one. That's amazing. Yes.
Well, learned the hard way, let me tell you. Okay. Well, Marilyn, how can people find you? I know you do online personal consultations and astrological readings. So please tell us all your contact info.
Well, you can, of course, call me. My telephone number is 828-557-2520. Also, my website is astrologermd.com. And then I'm also, you can email me at my conventional SeeFeelLive. So it's SeeFeelLive @gmail.com.
And the website is Astrologer M as in Marilyn, D as in Dumont, MD. Yes. And all her stuff is there. And you often do free readings periodically with another astrologer friend of yours, right? If people get on your email list, they'll get notified to participate in like a Zoom call, right?
Yes, we do a Zoom call. It's Marilyn. Her name is Marilyn also.
Yeah,
so
Marilyn and Marilyn.
Yeah, and so
those are great.
I know we have a lot of fun with those. And so we have that ability to, just reach out to people, and that's at no charge. So we send it out to as many people as ask about it. So
yeah, it's a beautiful service.
It is. So we have fun with that. So again, you can reach me with that through my email address, and I'll put you on the list.
Fantastic. That'll be in the show notes, everybody. Also, if you are on YouTube at FitAmyTV, just look in the show notes. Marilyn's contact information will be there in the podcast, Awakening Aphrodite. Everywhere you can find podcasts, all that will be in the show notes as well. Yes. If you enjoyed the show, you probably would like episode 54, which was the first time Marilyn was on the show. Go back and check that out. It wasn't that long ago, so a lot of stuff definitely still applies to what's going on now. And it gives you a little more background on the astrology end of it, which is super fascinating, I think. Particularly when you really hear about how like Pluto and Capricorn and how they're involved with political upheaval and what's going on in the world now with the mandates and all that. And here we go again. And guess what, friends? It was in the stars. It really gives some credibility to the science of astrology. It's just fascinating, I think. Super, super eye-opening. Marilyn Dumont, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome, Amy.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.